Hi guys, so today's video I'm actually going to be going over items I'm glad I didn't buy in the makeup industry. Some of these are releases from the last few months that initially may have caught my eye or interested me, but I did not end up purchasing, and for various reasons I'm glad I didn't do so. And so if you like this type of video, keep on watching, and without further ado, let's dive in. Alright, so the first item up on makeup products I'm glad I didn't buy is the Stupid Love palette by Lady Gaga from House Labs. So if you look at the palette closely, all the colors just look like they clash. You've got some pinks, a couple whites, and then a ton of blues. And blues for many people are overwhelming. Now, it wasn't something that I absolutely was like, oh, I want this. I like the packaging on it. However, if you look at the colors, there's warm tones, cool tones. I didn't know what it was supposed to be. And in the description, it does give a little more, you know, Gaga-esque description, which does make a little more sense to me now that I read it. But I'm going to read here what it says. We want you to color your own world, escape into stupid love, and embrace your color story with 18 shades of full intensity pigment inspired by Lady Gaga's sixth album, Chromatica. Colors in cool and warm tones clash and come together in new ways each time you create, taking your look from subtle pop to bold celebration. In this house of color, you make the rules with multiple finishes and silky smooth textures that unite to put the power of love in your hands. So there are 7 blue shades in this palette out of the 18, which is more than a third. And blue is overwhelming for many people. And I think 7 is a bit excessive. And I think that's what kind of drew me away from purchasing it when it launched in May of this year. It just seemed overwhelming blue. And the pinks were cute. Some of the whites and the off-whites were there. There's like a brown in there that I don't really think goes with the color story. But it wasn't something, when you look at the packaging on the outside, I really like it. I think the silver is very, futuristic, going with her album name. And then you see the color story, and I don't know. It just wasn't screaming my name. So I said pass. Alright, so next up on the list is the Morphe 10G Glisten Up Artistry palette. This palette initially did catch my eye because I do like a bright color eye, contradictory to what I'm actually wearing today. I do like to put bright colors on my eyes. It did initially inspire me to get it, but then I took a closer look, and I'm kind of glad I did, because at first glance it's beautiful, it's colorful, it's bright, but when you look at the second row, it's mostly like a pressed glitters, and from some of the reviews I've seen, it's mostly just glitter. Like, there's no actual color, like eyeshadow color to it. And it reminds me of like a child's glitter, play glitter that you put on a craft, like putting on your eye. And I know that it's probably not safe for your eyes in that aspect either. And I don't like palettes. I don't like eyeshadow palettes that have that like look-alike craft glitter. I just don't think it's a grown-up palette. So it does state on their website that 100% of the net profits that are made from the sales, I think from May to early July, will be given to the Glisten nonprofit organization that I think is based in New York City. Now, I do think that is wonderful, and I do think that cause is great. I would have donated money myself to the organization rather than just buying the palette and then having it sit on my on my shelf not being used, or, because I would not use the bottom row. And that's half the palette. So, I could get used out of the top row, but I just feel like it wouldn't have been worth my money to purchase it. So, all right. So up next in the list of items is the Tarte Cosmetics Confessions of a Man-Eater Cheek and Eye Palette. It is something I just saw and immediately was like, no, hard pass. I'm not a dual palette type of person. Now, I do think that you can get a value out of those type of palettes if that's something that you're trying to save money on and buy something that, hey, I need something for my face and something for my eyes, or this and that, whatever the combination may be. That would have been something that you could have bought and then saved money on. However, I am not a fan personally of those type of palettes. I don't think when they're made from past experiences, I don't think they are made with the best quality that you would get rather from a palette that's strictly eyeshadow or strictly face. I feel like most companies tend to dim down on the quality of it. And I didn't see many positive reviews on other people who did buy it, and I don't hear much about it afterwards being listed as a favorite or anything like that. So I'm glad that that was something I said, no thanks. And, Tarte, I do like you, but that was not, no. So, the next one. The next one, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about. So this one is the ABH Norvina electric cake liners, and I'm going to go on a little tangent here, so bear with me. I like the packaging and the aspect that it's bright and that it has like the swivel, like cool design and everything, but I don't think the colors that you got, the color combinations that you see here, were not like something that I grabbed for. Like, okay, there are days where I want a little bright color and I would, maybe put it on as like an accent. But this, for me personally, that's maybe like 2 or 3 times a year at best. Okay. I saw a lot of people were hyped about it, and then people bought it, and I don't hear much about them afterwards, and I don't see people wearing them. And in my circle of friends, I don't see them being worn. And I think the idea, in theory, was a neat idea. If you like type of color and you don't want to do eyeshadow, the liner is like a great way to add a pop of color. I'm a basic black eyeliner kind of girl, so I don't really stray from black in that sense. But I can appreciate colored liner when you appreciate it. So, but for me, I think the packaging was like, it's ploy. Is that the word I want? Was it like, it's, oh my god, it's retro, it's cool, it's bright, it's, it's this, it's that. And I would have bought it and never used it, and it's just not for me. So, sorry, ABH, but no thanks. Okay, this one I'm so confused about. This is very recent, and it is the Becca Cosmetics Zero No Pigment Virtual Foundation. Okay, zero, no pigment, they kind of equal the same thing, I guess. The wording of it is kind of weird. Zero pigment or no pigment would have been fine, one or the other. But zero, no pigment, I'm judging you. So, based on it, I was like, I don't understand. What is it? what it is, because foundation is supposed to have some pigmentation in it to cover your flaws that, you know, that are on your face and present a nice new shiny face. And then I'm looking at it and it says it's like a skincare makeup hybrid, which I think is kind of cool, don't get me wrong, and it's got some acne properties to help with skin acne and impurities, which I think is great. However, the way that it was marketed as a foundation rather than like a primer of sorts, it made no sense to me. It's kind of contradictory in that aspect. Foundation is supposed to have pigmentation. Um, it just I Becca, try again, please. You know, maybe if you rebranded it as a primer, I could see it being a little more successful, but I didn't understand where it was going. And then there was like the highlighter that came out with it, and it was like a sticky, wet highlighter, and I don't know who was in charge of that, but no. Mm-mm, no. All right, so this one just came out recently, and I was on the fence for a bit until I started seeing reviews, and it is the One Size Patrick Starr Visionary Eyeshadow Palette. Now, you get 15 shades in this palette, and I do kind of think it's a little bland. And there are 7 shades that are very similar to each other in their like browns, you know, tan, neutral, and then you have like one green, one kind of like olive color, and then one blue and a black, and then like a lavender teal color, which is those colors I was like, oh, okay, I can see, you know, kind of using. And then there's like a white, but the other colors, they just kind of seemed repetitive. I was not really feeling. So, he had a couple other items that came out, and I recently just found out about him. I don't know much about him other than him being on YouTube. But the makeup wipes are really expensive, and I was like, no, thanks. And a couple other items that I just weren't thrilled. Like, I wasn't like, oh my god, I want that. The palette was okay. The couple other items, I was like, better not. So, no, that was Patrick Starr's launch, and I was a little underwhelmed by it. So, alright, so up next is the Kylie Cosmetics Bronzer Sticks. When they came out, she did launch the Kendall x Kylie, which had like a highlighter and like a blush stick, and they seemed like they were cream more than anything. And I'm not 100% sold on cream products. I mean, I'll use them occasionally, but they're not my go-to. And then the bronzer sticks came out, and I didn't see it being as pigmented as I expected it to be. Now, I do have her powder bronzer, and I do use it, but it is not heavy. It's not a heavy bronzer. It doesn't go on heavy. You really need to build it, and if you want an everyday, you know, bronzer that you know isn't heavy in that aspect, you know, on color, that bronzer, the powder bronzer, is the way to go. Now, I'm wearing a bronzer today that's a little bit heavier than that, and I like it. I do like my highlight that's going on here. I am feeling it. That's new as well. And, but I have Kylie's powder, highlighter, and bronzer, and they are more of an everyday wear. It takes a lot to build up, and I just didn't see the bronzer sticks being like a heavier coverage on the face. I felt like they would need a lot of buildup and a lot of use of product, and I just was like, not really into it. So I didn't even. I looked on the, you know, I was okay. So When the Kendall collaboration went up, I was slightly interested. I will say that there was a couple things that caught my eye, but I said pass because I knew better. I have bronzers, I have blushes and highlighters, and the bronzer sticks that came out soon afterwards. I'm just very glad I didn't buy them because they just didn't cut it for me, based on my past experience with Kylie Cosmetics. Okay, and the last product that's on my list is the KKW Classic 2 Eyeshadow Palette. Now, I'm not a fan of KKW Beauty to begin with. First of all, I just think every palette that has come out from KKW all looks the same. It just reminds me that each palette has the same colors because they're all neutrals, which I think neutrals are having a neutral palette is fine, but I think because Kim just wears, that's all she wears, and she's just reselling and rearranging the pans around, maybe throwing in a color that hasn't been in there before, like a dark green or something like that, and then putting a price tag on it and making a quick buck from it. And she's got, I mean, if you go to her website, there's quite a few palettes that aren't at Ulta or Sephora that are just on her website, and I scrolled through them and I'm like, oh my god, these are all the same colors. They're just rearranged differently on each palette, and I think it's super repetitive, and each one doesn't interest me the more they come out. Now, had she done a neutral and then like a bright color scheme, something that is out of her comfort zone, I think might have enticed more buyers. But if you're a neutral type of person, that's all she's kept. It's tunnel vision. That's all she's going for is neutrals. And many people like to play around with color, like to experiment with both. And I feel like she could do a lot more in terms of sales. I feel like she could do a lot more if she threw in a palette that was strictly colors, or half and half for that aspect. And it's just, I don't know. The tunnel vision is there. All right, so that concludes my list of items I'm glad I didn't buy. These items are products many people did buy. I, however, am glad I did not. And this list is not meant to be a shaming or derogatory type of thing. It's just my personal opinion, and I just wanted to share. So, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, don't be afraid to do so. I greatly appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye, guys.